When we're walking through hard times, could God actually be doing something for everyone in the middle of the situation? I believe He can. Let's talk about it on this Monday morning. Good Monday morning. I've said for years that God will woo us or push us. I wish I could say I came up with that one, but my precious friend and now ministry partner, Ken Edwards, he told me that years ago. And recently I've watched as two of my closest friends have walked through some really heartbreaking legal challenges. They're messy. They make you feel yuck. And there's one person against another person. And so all of that feels so incongruent to the Christian experience. We're supposed to love our brothers and pray for our enemies. And I don't even like using the word enemy. That's such a horrible word. And as a believer in Christ, we shouldn't even have enemies. And yet, here is this situation where you have two people sitting on separate sides of the courtroom, and you have one that you feel like has this really just cause. And I've even watched as it seems like God has fought the battles for them, because I really have learned that Romans 8:28 is true. It says He knows us far better than we know ourselves. He knows my pregnant condition. Just picture that visual. You and I are always pregnant with something. We're pregnant with good things, or we're pregnant with bad things. We're pregnant with promises, or we're pregnant with wickedness. We're always pregnant with something, because we are not stagnant individuals. We are always moving, and we're moving one way or the other. So it says He knows our pregnant condition, but then it says, and keeps us present before God. That's why we can be sure that every detail in our lives of love for God, so that means every detail in the life of a believer. So we have to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ for Romans 8:28 to be true in our situation. That's why we can be so sure that every detail in our lives of love for God is worked into something good. So even the most challenging situations of our life, when we're facing legal situations or false allegations or whatever the situation or circumstance may be, even what we've walked through with the coronavirus, for the life of a believer, God is working all things for our good. But the other revelation I had recently, as I talked to my friends who are both going through this situation, is I reminded them God's also fighting for the heart of the person on the other side, because their heart is just as valuable to Him. So He may have to push them to get them to realize their need for Him. And sometimes that's just what happens in our lives and in our situations. So the next time you're walking through something and you feel like your heart is pitted against someone else, first, know this: God will work all things together for the good of the life of the believer, even situations that we do not want to walk through. But second of all, keep your heart tender to the person you're having to walk it with. Because remember, our battle isn't against flesh and blood. It's against principalities and powers and demonic forces. It is not against people. And then pray for them, because God may very well use the situation that is painful to you to reach their heart at the same time. And friends, I can tell you from experience, if that is true, then it's worth the journey you may very well have to take.